My sister poisoned me for getting into college, while mom held signs saying shame on you. Now they're both begging for help. But I'm not the fool. Hey, Reddit. Many people won't believe it, but it really happened to me. My adopted sister hurled my science medal at me, shouting you don't deserve this, and even poisoned my food out of jealousy. When I got accepted into college, when I turned to my mother for help, she simply said, don't show off your success where Tess can see it. And later added sharply, if you truly care about your sister, you'd focus on helping her heal. I didn't say anything. That was 8 years ago. This Thanksgiving, she stood on my lawn shouting that I had traumatized Tess again. In my family, love was defined as witnessing my adopted sister Tess demolish my accomplishments while yelling you don't deserve this and then forgiving her without apology. My sister Tess is now 24 years old and we adopted her from foster care when she was 15. When I was 16, Tess had just joined our family and I won the area science fair. I wanted her to be my best friend, so I told her first. Her initial reaction was to take my medal award and chuck it straight at my skull. You don't deserve this. Rang throughout the home. As she collapsed on the floor, my mother stared at me, curled into a ball and cried and reminded me that it was entirely my fault. Don't display achievements where Tess can see them. This established the tone for the following 8 years of my life. It wasn't until one lovely afternoon last spring that the tone changed, because that's when I received my Johns Hopkins acceptance letter. A lifetime of academic pressure, imposter syndrome and crying into textbooks all culminated in that single moment. I contacted friends, announced the acceptance and looked at Baltimore residences. I was just Elena, not Tessa's trigger, not the family sacrifice, just a future doctor preparing her escape. Until my mother arrived home and discovered me rejoicing. This is fantastic. We need to figure out how to make it work. She smiled as if she were saying something good, but her eyes suggested differently. After an hour of faking niceness, the reality came out. Of course Tess will need to come with you. Baltimore has excellent trauma programs and she can't handle you leaving. I'll help with rent if you get a 2-bedroom Tess in my apartment with access to my medical supplies, study materials, and future mom. You know what happens when she sees me doing well. She hasn't had an episode in months, she claimed, as if Tess hadn't trashed my MCAT prep books last week. If you want what's best for your sister, you'd help her heal. Mom was continually telling me about Tess's background. Tess was the scapegoat in her foster family. Nothing violent, just 1,000 minor mistreatments. There were no birthday presents for the biological daughter, but she did get parties. Hand-me-downs while the other girl received new clothes. Report cards were ignored, but B's were treasured. You don't deserve nice things became a catchphrase. Tess was now making it mine. She was stronger, colder and harder than me, but she too had an Achilles heel. That was her predictability. 10 minutes of staring signaled the impending devastation. 15 minutes equaled absolute devastation. Hide anything important, never rejoice anywhere. She can see. But medical school cannot conceal 4 years of accomplishment. I remember being 18 when Tess discovered my college acceptance letters. I didn't find out until I was eating at the kitchen table and saw a faint white powder in my food. The fragrance indicated that it was rat poison. What the F? You crazy bitch. I yelled, pointing my fork at Tess. Tess just cackled like a madman while my mother lectured me on how I shouldn't brag and the value of humility. That's when I realized my mother wasn't denying the pattern. She was preserving it. I told Mom, no, Tess was not permitted to be anywhere near my dorm, but she could visit Baltimore and FaceTime me all the time and I'd return home for holidays. I even volunteered to look into trauma programs near my home. Then I'm not helping with any school expenses. Mom yelled, fine, I'll take out more loans, I said, sighing. The following 2 months were a living misery. Mom contacted relatives claiming I was abandoning my traumatized sister. She brought Tess to my pharmaceutical job to practice separations. Tess looked at my white drugstore coat for 10 minutes before knocking down a whole display of medications. You don't deserve this. My manager asked them not to return. Fast forward to the week before my white coat ceremony. My aunt called me. Your mother bought plane tickets. She says you can't exclude Tess from family milestones. She's been staring at your white coat photo online for days. I understood what that meant. Mom had spent 8 years making sure I realized that Tessa's trauma was more important than my future. Every destroyed achievement has a corresponding reason regarding foster care. But I wasn't the terrified, people-pleasing 16-year-old girl anymore. I was a woman who understood her worth and was prepared to fight back. So I began planning. The first thing I did was alter the ceremony location. Across all of my social media accounts they posted about how they relocated it to a different building on campus. Then I called the school to explain my position. Douglas, the security guy, was really understanding. He said he would keep an eye out for anyone who fit their description. I also requested my roommate, Jenna, to be my watchdog. She was already well aware of Tessa's condition. I woke up at 5 a.m. on the day of the event. I couldn't sleep anyway. Since I was nervous, I took my white coat from its hiding place in Jenna's closet. Yeah, I had been hiding it there for weeks. I learned my lesson about storing critical items in my own room. I dressed in the bathroom with the door locked, even place a chair against it. Paranoid maybe, but try living with someone who poisoned your meals. Jenna took me to campus early. We took her car because mine was too easily recognized. I kept checking my phone. Mom had already texted 12 times all variations on where are you, and Tess is so excited to support you. She once ripped up my score report to show her support for my SAT results. We parked in a separate lot from usual. I entered the building through the back entrance. Douglas arrived just as he had promised. He gave me the thumbs up. There is no evidence of them yet. I went into the prep room where all of the other kids were getting ready. Everyone was snapping selfies and doing their hair. I just sat in the corner and watched the door. My friend Jake came over and asked whether I was alright. I told him I was anxious and didn't mention that my crazy sister might turn up and ruin everything. He wouldn't have understood anyway. His father's absence from his soccer games caused the most family trouble, for him must be nice. My phone started blowing up about 30 minutes before the event. Mom, again. This time she and Chloe were photographed at the incorrect building, which I had previously mentioned online. They stood outside bewildered. Tess was dressed strangely formal, like if she were going to prom. Mom's texts became angrier, where are you? This isn't funny. Answer your phone now. I switched my phone off. Jenna texted me from her spot in the lobby. Everything is well so far. The ceremony coordinator began queuing us up alphabetically by last name. I was in the center of the pack. Good is difficult to find. We began strolling toward the auditorium. My hands were shaking, not from stage fright, but from anticipating the typical screech of "you don't deserve this." The hall was crowded with parents holding cameras and flowers. As we entered, I examined the throng. I didn't see them. Maybe my plan worked. We took our places on stage. The dean began his remarks by emphasizing dedication and service. I was scarcely listening, just staring at the doors. Then I spotted her, not Tess' mom. She was in the back entrance disputing with security. She had a crimson face. She was pointing to the stage at me, but Douglas wouldn't let her in. She did not have a ticket. See, I had conveniently omitted to explain that the ceremony was ticket only. Oops, the dean called my name. I rose up and walked across the platform, accepted my white coat, smiled for the official photo, and for the first time in 8 years, I celebrated an accomplishment without dread. No flying trophies, there are no destroyed papers, there's no poison in my meal, just me in my white coat beginning my future. After the wedding, Jenna and I met outside. She was beaming, as she told me Mom and Tess had arrived shortly after I received my coat. Tess supposedly attempted to storm the stage but was stopped at the door by the same security that had kept Mom out. Mom created a scene with discrimination and trauma. Other parents began staring. They left before campus police arrived. I checked my phone while driving home, 47 missed calls, more than 100 texts. The final one from Mom was simple: come home immediately. We need to discuss your actions. My behavior: Tess isn't attempting to spoil my ceremony, not her trying to poison me. My behavior: I did not go home. I went to Jake's flat. Instead, his housemates were hosting a party. I wore my white coat the entire time. I took 1 million photographs. I shared them all over social media, every single one, because for once, I was not going to disguise my accomplishment. I was not going to decrease my light so Tess wouldn't be triggered. The party went until 2 a.m. I slept on Jake's couch. I awoke to more angry texts, this time from Dad. He normally avoided Mom and Tessa's turmoil, but it appears that Mom had built him up. His speech focused on family commitment and trauma awareness. Same script, but different messenger. I knew I'd have to go home eventually. My belongings were there, my automobile, my entire existence actually, but I sensed something had changed. I stood up to them. They are not aware of this, outwitted them. The world had not ended. Tess hadn't spontaneously combusted about not damaging my achievement. Mom had not disowned me yet. Jenna brought me up at around noon. We drove past my house first just to check it out. Mom's automobile was in the driveway, so was Tessa's. The curtains were pulled. From the outside everything looked normal, but I knew better. Inside was most likely a battleground of Mom's guilt trips and Tessa's anger. We parked down the street. I texted Dad that I was returning home. I figured he was the safest option. He instantly responded stating that Mom was at her book group and Tess was in her room. The coast was clear. Even so, I insisted on bringing Jenna along. There's safety in numbers and all that. We strolled into the house and it was quiet, too quiet. Dad was in the kitchen, appearing fatigued. He started lecturing me about family duty. I cut him off. I told him I was simply there to pack a few items. His face fell. They asked if I was serious. I said yes. I went into my room with Jenna, started stuffing clothes into a suitcase. I grabbed my laptop, chargers, critical documents and other essential items. Tess would be unable to replace the items she had destroyed. Jenna helped me transport boxes to her car. Dad only watched from the doorway, didn't help. It didn't stop us either. We were about finished when I heard the front door bang, Mother's voice sharp and hostile. Then footsteps on the stairs, fast, purposeful. I recognized the sound. I grabbed the last package and headed for the door. But Tess was already present, standing in my doorway, staring at my empty room. Her expression was blank, which was worse than fury. She stared at me. Then I noticed the box in my hands. Then back to my room. The staring had begun. I checked my watch. I began counting. 1 minute 2, Jenna shifted uncomfortably beside me. She had heard the stories but had never seen it happen. 3 minutes 4, Tessa's hands began shaking. Here it arrived. But then something strange occurred. Instead of screaming or throwing things, Tess simply turned around and walked away down the hallway, go to her room, slammed the door. Jenna and I exchanged looks. That was not typical. Tess would always erupt always. Mom emerged at the top of the staircase. Her book club dress was immaculate, but her expression was twisted with wrath. She examined the cartons in my hands in an empty room at me. What do you think you're doing? I informed her that I was moving out. I found a place closer to the school. I need to focus on my studies. She laughed, not a good chuckle, the kind that makes my skin crawl. You're not going anywhere. The family stays together. Tess needs you. I pushed past her with my box. Jenna followed. Mom grabbed my arm on the stairs hard. Her nails dug in. You're being selfish. You're traumatizing Tess all over again. Good daughters, don't abandon family. I pulled my arm free, keep walking. Dad was still in the kitchen looking into his coffee, didn't even look up as we passed. Mom followed us outdoors, detailing each sacrifice she had made. Every time she chose us over herself, every penny spent on Tessa's therapy. We loaded the final box into Jenna's car. Mom stood on the grass with arms folded. If you leave now, don't bother coming back to Thanksgiving. I got inside the automobile. Jenna started the engine as we drove away. I slowed just enough to look back. Tess was gazing via her bedroom window, just stood there staring. It gave me chills, Jenna. Let me stay at her house for a few days. Carla, her roommate, was nice about it. They had a pull-out couch in the living room, which was less than perfect, but better than being at home. During those days I looked for apartments, checked my bank account and did arithmetic on student debts. Mom's texts did not stop. They became worse. She'd gone from angry to manipulative messages about Chloe not eating. Chloe wept all night. Chloe questioned why. I despised her classic mom moves. I quit reading them after day 2. But then Dad began texting. That was new. He frequently remained neutral. His messages were unusual and worrying. Tess was said to be acting strangely, stranger than usual. Quiet, too quiet. She said she'd been in her room for 3 days straight. I almost gave in, almost drove back to check on her. Jenna persuaded me out of it. Reminds me that this was most likely another manipulation. Tess was 23, not 4. That she had parents to care for her. She was correct. I knew she was correct. I still felt guilty, though. On the 4th day I found an apartment studio near campus, tiny but mine. Trevor the landlord was unconcerned about my family issues and only wanted the first and last month's rent and a security deposit. I signed the lease that afternoon. I finally had my own place. I have my own area, my own life. Moving in was simple because I didn't have much. Jenna assisted me in purchasing basic items such as Goodwill furniture, dollar store dishes and Walmart bedding, nothing fancy. Nothing would be too bad if Chloe found me and ruined everything. Old habits die hard. I had been at my apartment for precisely 1 week when Dad arrived there. I'm not sure how he found me, but it was probably through Jenna's social media. She tagged me in a housewarming selfie. Should have known better. Dad looked dreadful, bags beneath his eyes, wrinkled shirt, very undadlike. He said we should chat about Chloe, about Mom, about everything. I let him in because he was still my father. He sat on my second-hand couch and began talking. They told me things I hadn't heard before about the adoption, regarding Tessa's first few months with us. Apparently, it was worse than I realized. Tess had attempted to flee 6 times, had threatened to harm herself, had begged to return to foster care. Mom had kept everything from me. I wanted to bond with my new sister without baggage. So much for the plan. Dad said the therapist had warned them Tess may become fixated on me. He said my successes may be perceived as threats might act out. Mom promised to handle it to safeguard both of us. Instead she had picked Tess each time and Dad had let her. He apologized, actually spoke the words, said he should have intervened years ago. I should have been protected too. But Mom was so convinced she could mend Tess that enough love and understanding would heal her and he wanted to believe her. Then he dropped the actual bomb. Tess had located my flat. She had been sitting outside in her car for hours, watching, waiting. He had followed her here, was attempting to persuade her to go, but she wouldn't move. She said she needed to see me, to talk with me, to describe something. I gazed outside my window. Sure enough, Tessa's little Honda was parked across the street. I could see her silhouette in the driver's seat sitting there looking at my building. My skin crawled. How long had she stayed there? How many times had I strolled by without noticing? Dad wanted me to speak to her, said it might assist. Perhaps she needed closure. Perhaps she wanted to apologize. I laughed, actually laughed in his face. Tess apologize. In 8 years she had never apologized, not for the trophies, not for the poison, not for anything. Dad, however, continued to press, said something different this time, that Tess had been acting strangely since my departure, not destructive, weird, just sad and unusual. She said she had been going over old photos, writing in a journal, going to treatment without being forced by her mother. I told him, no, I was done being Tessa's emotional punching bag. I'm done hiding my accomplishments, I'm done living in terror. He could tell her that. He could tell Mom that I was done with everything. Dad nodded, looked defeated, said he understood. Then he departed. I observed from my window as he walked to Tessa's car. I saw him leaning in her window. I saw her shake her head. I saw him try again, more head shaking. Then he walked to his own car and drove off, but Tess remained. We're still watching, still waiting. I attempted to ignore her. I made dinner, I watched Netflix, I did some studying, but I kept watching the window. She was constantly present. Same position, the same automobile, the same stare. It was creeping me out. I considered calling the cops, but what would I say, was my sister sitting in her car? It's not illegal. Around midnight I stopped trying to sleep. I kept imagining her breaking in. I was found dozing, who knows what they're doing. So I sat at my window. I'm watching her look at me like a bizarre stakeout standoff. Neither of us is moving, neither of us are backing down. Then I noticed her get out of the automobile. My heart began racing. She was approaching, coming for me. I grabbed my phone and prepared to contact 911. But she didn't go to my building. She went to the corner store instead. I returned with a bag. She got back into her car. I resumed watching. This lasted for 3 days. 3 days with Tess in her automobile. I spent 3 days checking windows and securing doors. 3 days spent jumping at every noise. Jenna claimed I was being paranoid. Tess was probably just processing that I should contact the cops if I was truly terrified. But I wasn't really terrified. I was tired. I am tired of jogging, tired of concealing. I was tired of allowing Tess to dictate my life, even when she wasn't present. So on day 4 I did something stupid. I went out. I walked straight up to her car. Knocked on her window. She rolled it down carefully. She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. She had been crying. Tess never cried, not in front of others, not ever. We looked at each other for a long time. Then she said something that surprised me. I know what I did to you, not. I'm sorry. This is not an apology, just an acknowledgement. I wasn't sure what to say, so I didn't say anything. Just standing there on the street, I stared at my sister, who had made my life horrible for the last 8 years, waiting for the other shoe to drop before the yelling begins for something to fly at my head. Instead, she reached into her bag. I flinched and prepared to run, but she simply pulled out a notebook and handed it to me through the window. I've been writing it all down, everything I remember, everything I did. Dr. Martinez said it would help. I took the notebook. I didn't open it. I did not want to see her list of destruction. She continued chatting. She claimed to have been in treatment twice a week since I left, real therapy as opposed to the family sessions Mom used to bring her to. She said she was on new medications. She said she was trying. I wanted to laugh or yell, throw the notebook back at her 8 years of misery. And now she's trying, now that I'd successfully escaped. But I just stood there holding her diary and feeling numb. She wasn't finished talking and she never was when she first started. She informed me about the foster family, not Mom's version, her version, how they adopted her first, how they had loved her for 3 years, how they had a biological daughter and everything changed. How you don't deserve. This became her life's soundtrack. How she had believed them. Then she said something that struck me deeply, when I saw you holding that award, joyful and proud and deserving. I couldn't take it if you deserved nice things. Perhaps I was the problem, perhaps they were correct about me. I found myself sitting on the curb holding her notebook, still processing. She came out of the car and sat next to me, avoid getting too near, like she was frightened I'd flee. Perhaps she was frightened of hurting me again. We sat there silently for a bit. Then she informed me about the previous week. Mom had been contacting her frequently, telling her that I had abandoned them, telling her to go find me, to make me come home, to help me comprehend family. But for the first time Tess had declined, had hung up on her. I had blocked her number. That is why she was here. Do not drag me home, not to damage my apartment, but please warn me. Mom was plotting something. I had been speaking with family gathering alliances planning an intervention. The entire family was scheduled to confront me on Thanksgiving. Make me see sense, make me come home. She took out her phone and showed me the family group chat. I had been deleted from. Message after message of ungrateful children regarding family obligations, regarding how I was calling Mom with worry. Tess needed her sister. Aunt Marcy called me selfish cousin. Jake warned me that I would regret this. Grandma was dissatisfied with my decisions, but Tess had defended me in front of everybody, said I deserved to live my own life. She admitted that she had made a mistake by hurting me. Mom told me I needed to leave. The responses were savage. They were now turning on her too, calling her ungrateful, saying I had indoctrinated her. I eventually opened my notebook, page after page of memories. The trophy incident is described in detail. The acceptance letters were torn, the food was poisoned. However, there were certain things I had forgotten or you never knew. She'd become enraged at times after witnessing my success. She had planned to hurt me, but stopped. She sometimes hated herself for disliking me. The previous entry was made yesterday. Elena deserved everything good. I know that now. I've always known that, I just hadn't felt it previously. The medications helped. Therapy helps. Observing her go, however, proved beneficial. She's free now, free from me, free from Mom, free to be brilliant. I did one thing correctly, I let her leave. I handed the journal back. I told her I needed time, I needed to think, I needed to process 8 years of pain. She nodded, said she understood, she said she would leave me alone. But before she had one last thing to say about Mom, about what was coming, about how I can defend myself. Mom had called the school claiming a family emergency, trying to obtain my schedule, trying to figure out where I lived. The administration had not informed her, but Mom persisted. She had also been calling me at work. I told them I was having a breakdown, that I needed assistance. That family was concerned. Tess had screenshots, messages in which Mom discussed tactics, how to make me go home, how to make me realize I was being selfish, how to use Tess's trauma to make me feel guilty, how to turn my family against me. How to make my life so horrible that I would crawl back. But here's the kicker, Tess had sabotaged her delete messages before Mom sends them, giving her incorrect information. I informed my relatives that I had relocated to another city. Running interference. My destroyer has become my protector. The world felt upside down. She stood to go. She said she would continue to warn me if Mom escalated. She said she would try to keep her distracted. She said she understood if I did not want to see her again. Then she got into her car and drove away. I was left sitting on the sidewalk with 8 years of suffering and one notepad full of regret. I went back inside and called Jenna. I told her everything. She came over carrying wine and Kleenex. We went over Tessa's notepad together, page by page, page after page of pain and recognition. A teenager who had been told she deserved nothing turned that lesson on everyone else. My parents allowed it to happen. I'm suffering because of it. Jenna inquired what I was going to do about Tess, about Mom, about Thanksgiving. I did not know. A part of me wanted to forgive Tess. She was trying, she was changing, she was now defending me. But 8 years is a long time. Trauma does not just fade with medication and therapy. The following couple weeks were quiet. There have been no mom assaults, no family ambushes, just myself, school and my small flat. I poured myself into studying. The first anatomy exam was coming soon. I had always been adept at memorizing, at concentrating, at blocking everything else out. It's how I got through living with Tess. But I kept thinking about her journal, about her sitting outside for 3 days regarding her blocking Mom. For me it did not erase the past. The scars did not heal properly, but it meant something. Perhaps not forgiveness, perhaps not friendship, but something. Then Thanksgiving week arrived. The family group chat erupted again. Jenna showed me screenshots. Everyone verified that they will be at Mom's place. Everyone is willing to talk sense to me. Everyone was confident they could resolve this family crisis. Tess had attempted to warn them off. They had turned utterly against her. Mom texted me directly for the first time in several weeks, sweet as pie. Just want my baby girl home for Turkey. Just want family together. I just want to talk. There is no pressure, there is no guilt, just love. I knew better. This was her last play, get me into that house with 20 relatives, break me down, bring me home. I replied that I had to work lies. But whatever she replied immediately, I checked with your management. I know you have a day off lying to. Family is beneath you, your dad is disappointed, Tess is devastated, you're breaking hearts. Then came the danger, if you don't show up, I'll come to you with the whole family. We will conduct the intervention at your apartment, in front of your neighbors, in front of everybody. You'll be embarrassed into submission. Mom's style is classic. Public humiliation was her preferred weapon. I went into a panic. I called Tess without thinking. She answered the first ring. She's serious, Tess explained. I overheard her making arrangements. Aunt Marcy is coming. Her van. They're going to come up at your place around noon, cause a commotion and compel you to listen. I inquired why she was assisting me. I asked not accusingly, but simply curious. She was silent for a bit before saying something I will never forget, because I took stuff from you for 8 years. Perhaps it's time I gave back. We created a plan, not precisely together, but in parallel. She would go to Thanksgiving, play the lovely daughter, keep them busy, keep them distracted. Allow me time to disappear for the day. Perhaps they'd give up if they couldn't locate me. Perhaps they'd understand I was serious. On Thanksgiving morning I packed a bag and left my apartment at dawn, went to Jenna's apartment. Her family was okay with me joining. Her mother Carla had heard the stories. He said I was welcome at any moment. Said family was based on choice rather than blood made me cry a little, in a positive way. I switched my phone off. I didn't want to see such texts. I didn't want to know when they showed up, I did not want to feel guilty. I just wanted a nice holiday, a average supper, a day without drama. Jenna's family handed me that, turkey stuffing and pie. No screams, there is no destruction, there is no guilt. But I did switch on my phone that night. I needed to know what happened, 53 missed calls, more than 100 texts. I never listened to voicemails. The last text came from Tess. They came, they saw you weren't there. They left. Mom is preparing something else, be careful. The following few days were tense, waiting for Mom's next move, jumping every time someone knocked, checking windows obsessively. Jenna said I was becoming paranoid again. But I knew Mom, she did not give up, she's just regrouped. Planned better, hit harder. Then my academic advisor called me. Someone called and claimed to be me, stated that I was dropping out due to a family emergency. I needed to withdraw immediately. The advisor was perplexed. I had just passed my anatomy exam. Why should I quit now? I informed her that was not me. She explained that she had worked it out and simply wanted to warn me. My landlord, Trevor, was next. I received a call stating that I had breached my lease, that I had moved my entire family in. The neighbors were grumbling. He drove by to check. I saw nothing but wanted to know if anyone was trying to get me evicted. I explained about my mother. He claimed he would ignore any future calls. Then there's my job. Someone called in ill for me 3 shifts in a row. My manager nearly fired me. I had to show him. Our family group chat explained the entire scenario. He offered me another chance, but after one more issue I was gone. I began taping everything, saving screenshots, developing evidence. Tess kept giving me information. Mom had recruited Aunt Marcy as her primary ally. They were studying legal possibilities. We're talking about wellness checkups regarding forcible interventions, about declaring me mentally incapable. That was insane. I was a medical student. But Mom was desperate. I considered getting a restraining order. Jenna's mother suggested it. But that meant court. I meant to face them, meant making everything public and legal. I only wanted to be left alone, to study, to work, to live. Why was that so difficult for them to understand? Then came the letters, not emails, but genuine letters from all family members. Everyone says the same thing, how I was hurting Mom, how I abandoned Tess. I would later regret being selfish and harsh. Some were handwritten, some typed. Everything is designed to break me down. But Tessa's letter was different. Hidden in Aunt Marcy's envelope, a sticky note that simply said, "Stay strong, you are doing the correct thing. I am proud of you." It was the first time in 8 years that Mother had expressed pride in me, in everything I had done. It struck harder than all of the guilt combined. I decided it was enough. I changed my phone number. I just told Jenna about my job. I got a P.O. box for mail every day. I parked my car in a different lot. Yes, it was exhausting, but it was preferable to coping with Mom's increasing madness. 2 weeks have gone without incident. I began to relax a little. Perhaps they had given up. Perhaps Mom had discovered a new project. Perhaps Tess had persuaded them to back off. I should have known better. Mom was only considering her nuclear option. It was a Tuesday when everything went wrong. I was walking to class when I noticed them, Mom, Dad, Aunt Marcy, 3 cousins, standing outside the hospital facility holding signs. Family abandonment is abuse. Tess needs her sister and my particular fave is shame on Elena. Other students were staring, taking photos, whispering. I ducked into a side building and phoned security. I told them about the harassment. They claimed they would handle it. However, I could still hear Mom through the window. She told everybody who would listen about her ungrateful daughter. Tess is poor and traumatized about family values. I asked Jenna to bring me a jacket and sunglasses. Snuck out the back like a criminal. I missed my anatomy lecture. I had to email my professor with an excuse for being sick. He probably believed I was lying. Great Mom was now interfering with my academic progress as well. The protest lasted 3 hours when they began to block doors. Security forced them to leave, but the harm had been done. Everyone in my program had witnessed it. I'd heard the stories. I moved from being an unknown student to the girl with a wacky family. Some classmates were sympathetic, others only wanted to gossip. That night Tess called from an unfamiliar number. Mom stated that she intended to return tomorrow with more people, make it a daily routine. Till I Crack said she tried to stop her, but Mom had really lost it. I was certain that public shame would bring me home. I couldn't handle another day like that. I couldn't have started my medical profession as a protest girl. So I did something I said I'd never do. I called Mom directly Jenna's phone so she would actually respond. The conversation was short. First asked her to meet me at a coffee shop near school, alone. One chance to speak. She arrived with Dad and Aunt Marcy. Of course I almost left right away, but Tess entered behind them. "You saw me, sugarhead," I said. I tried. I sat at a separate table, close enough to hear, far enough to provide space, still protecting me in her strange way. Mom started immediately. How could I leave my family? How could I damage Tess? How could I be so selfish? I let her to rant for 5 minutes. Allow her to express herself fully. Dad occasionally nodded. Aunt Marcy uttered disapproving sounds. I just drank my coffee and waited. When she eventually stopped, I took out my phone. I showed her the screenshots that Tess had sent messages about forcing me home. The plan is to call my school the tactics for making my life miserable. Her face turned crimson. She turned and glared at Tess, but I wasn't finished. I told her about the award, the poison, the books were destroyed, years of dread, how she had enabled it all, how she consistently prioritized Tessa's trauma over my safety. Dad appeared stunned. Mom had apparently downplayed things for him. Aunt Marcy attempted to interrupt. I continued talking. Then I uttered the thing that finally silenced her. I got into medical school despite her, not because of her, that every achievement she'd forced me to conceal had led me here, whether my family supported me. I was going to be a doctor. I was done being Tessa's emotional punching bag. Mom began crying, real tears, not manipulated tears. She claimed she had merely wanted to help Tess heal, that she thought keeping us together would solve everything, that she had failed us both. It was the first honest statement she'd made in years. Dad reached for her hand. She drew away. Tess stood up, then walked over to our table. I looked Mom directly in the eyes. I told her to stop, that she had tortured me plenty. It was time to let me go, that she was seeking therapy on her own, that she no longer needed me to suffer for her. Mom's face crumbled. Aunt Marcy tried one more guilt trip and began discussing family loyalty, forgiveness, and moving forward together. Tess laughed, actually I laughed. I asked Marcy if she could forgive someone who poisoned her meals, who ruined her achievements, who made her life miserable for 8 years. Marcy shut up. I stated my terms clearly, no more protests, no more calls to my school or workplace. There are no further letters or initiatives. I stated I'd consider attending Christmas if they maintained limits. If not, I would seek a restraining order. I had already spoken to a lawyer, was prepared to make it lawful. Mom nodded, looked defeated. Dad eventually spoke up. He said he was proud of me, that I had demonstrated more strength than he ever had, that he should have protected me long ago, that he will ensure Mom kept her vow. It was pleasant to hear 8 years late, but good. He asked if we could text occasionally, just updates. I answered, maybe. Tess asked to accompany me out. Stay away from Mom and the others outside. She handed me an envelope. She said it was from her therapy fund, which she had saved from her part-time work, enough to make up for the time I missed at work due to Mom's harassing. I attempted to resist. She insisted. She said it was the least she could do. She also mentioned that she was moving out. I had found a group home for traumatized adults, somewhere she could receive intense therapy, she couldn't harm anyone, somewhere Mom couldn't use her as a weapon. She had already put down a deposit. I was planning to relocate next week. I wasn't sure what to say. We stood awkwardly for a minute. We've been through 8 years of misery, but there's also something new, understanding maybe, or just fatigue. She expressed her wish that I would become an excellent doctor, that she would observe from a distance. She said she was proud of me. Then she went back inside. I have not seen her in person since. The following few months were quiet. Mom fulfilled her promise, no more harassing, no more guilt trips, just silence. Dad texted occasional updates on the weather and the dog-safe topics. I responded occasionally, short messages, baby steps. Perhaps we'll have a relationship eventually, perhaps not. I learned about tests from Dad. She was doing well in the group. Home intensive therapy 3 times each week, new drug regimen, art therapy, allowed her to vent her emotions without causing destruction. She had even landed a job at a plant nursery. She explained that growing things helped her grasp the importance of nurturing rather than destroying. Christmas came and went. I did not go home. I spent it with Jenna's family again. They had virtually adopted me by that time. Her mother, Carla, kept saying, "You need meat on your bones." Her father, Louise, taught me to play dominoes. That was nice, normal. Nobody cried over something I didn't deserve. I received a card from Mom, simple, "Just thinking about you, love you, Mom." There is no guilt. There was no manipulation, just a card. I did not respond. I wasn't prepared. Perhaps it would never be, but I saved it. Place it in a drawer alongside other complicated memories, evidence that people may change. Maybe spring semester has begun. I poured myself into studying anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, the works I got, top marks in everything. Put a snapshot of my white coat on Instagram, public proud, no more concealing achievements. Some family witnessed it. I enjoyed it. Small gestures, big meanings, progress. I received an SMS from an unknown number on my birthday. "Happy birthday, you deserve everything good. See." I knew it was Tess, did not respond, but I did not erase it either. I saved it, actually proof that the girl who used to scream "You don't deserve this" had finally changed her opinion. It only took 8 years. I ran into my cousin, Jake, in the grocery store. He apologized for sending group chat messages. He admitted he had been mistaken. Family pressure caused people to do stupid things. That he was proud of me for advocating for myself. We grabbed some coffee, caught up. He said Mom was also in therapy, finally addressing her rescuer complex. The 1-year mark since leaving home passed quietly. I had survived, thrived, even top of my class, great pals, a little flat. That was just mine. There are no broken awards. There is no poisoned food. Nobody was yelling about what I deserved. It's just me creating the life I'd always desired, the life I had kept secret for so long. Jenna gave me a party, small things, only close friends. But she gave a toast that struck me deeply. You are the strongest person I know. Watching you break free has motivated me. You demonstrated what real courage looks like. I am not fighting back. I am simply refusing to play the game anymore. I am walking away. Dad called that night. Mom expressed a desire to apologize. I'd written a letter, asked if he may transmit it. I said yes. The letter arrived a week later, 3 pages. Mom recognized her mistakes, how she had failed me, how she had enabled Tess, she had put Tess's well-being ahead of my safety. She was terribly sorry. I did not respond to that either, wasn't prepared for forgiveness. Perhaps never will be, but I did read it several times. I kept it with my Christmas cards, evidence of transformation, of growth, of a family that had finally ceased expecting me to set myself on fire to keep the others warm. That was enough for now. My 2nd year of medical school began. Classes are harder, longer hours, but I loved it every minute, even the harsh examinations, even with the endless studying, because it was mine, my achievement, my future. Nobody could throw this trophy at my head, no one could sabotage this success.